Well, I'm excited that Jermaine. I'm excited we're back for another webinar. We are just gonna give it about a minute as everybody's joining. We're seeing the numbers jump up on the participant list. So I'm gonna share my screen. We'll get ready to go, and then we'll get moving along in just a minute.
Good. Let's see how rusty we are.
Oh yeah. This is our first webinar in a couple months. We had some pinch hitters in August. All right. Let's get going. We'll honor those that are present. I see the numbers keep on going up. We're at about probably about half the registrants have joined so far, and I think what we usually see is a bunch of people join a few minutes in. So awesome! Super excited that we're back, and we took a little break from August for those that kind of pay attention to our webinars or watch our webinars on a regular basis. Jade, our business development manager, and Mike, our consulting manager, took over our webinars for August. So Jermaine and I got to take a little break, which was kind of fun, right?
Yeah, it was great. It's good to get a little bit of break off.
So what I'm going to do is I'm launching a poll. Please fill out the poll. We want to get a sense of where everybody's at, what they're interested in learning, sort of where they're at, what the audience is like, what you're thinking about using government funding for. And that will give us some good information as we progress into the webinar to make sure that it's nice and relevant for everybody. So the way our webinars work, if I stumble around or Jermaine stumbles around, it's been 2 months since we ran a webinar, so we got to remember how to do all this stuff. So the way our webinars work, we're about 30 minutes usually of content, 30 minutes ish. And we go through, our goal is to keep you up to date with what's going on in the world of technology in a sort of straightforward, non-technical type of speaking style. We do these webinars once a month on the third Wednesday of every month, except for August, when we have leaders from our office kick Jermaine and I out, and we get to go golf while they do the webinars. And if you have any questions, I'm sure there will be questions about this topic. It's a little bit of a different topic for us. It's not technical. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A pane. We got lots of people on the call, lots of interest in this topic today, which is how to get the government to pay for your digital transformation. So this is exciting. You can make a whole bunch of changes and then get the government to pay for a lot of them or part of them. Just by way of intro, I'm joined, for those that don't know, this good-looking, wonderful, intelligent person. That's my colleague, Jermaine Clark, who's our VP of Operations at TechFi. Welcome, Jermaine.
Thank you, Brendan. Happy to be here, back in the reins.
Yeah, this is our, I don't know, we've lost count of how many webinars, but we've done, together, we've done monthly webinars for, I think we're up past 3 years now, aren't we?
Yeah.
We got to be in like the 30s.
We started in 2019. So
yeah,
2020.
That's almost 4 years.
4 years. Yeah, it's been a while.
We could be in the 40s of webinars. We should probably go back and count. Okay, but let's stay for. Oh, by the way, my name is Brendan Howe. I'm the CEO of TechFi. And together, Jermaine and I do all sorts of fun webinars together. Okay, I see about 76% of people have answered the poll. Okay, thank you. Look at this. Okay, quick. Here's where we're at, Jermaine. 50% of people have used government grants or other funding in their business in the past. 50% haven't. It's exactly 50%. That's crazy. What people are interested in using grants for: the two most common things: Microsoft 365 migration, modernization, that sort of stuff, and CRM systems. followed closely by ERP systems and on-premise equipment refreshes. So I don't know if you want to disappoint the on-premise people now, or if you want to wait till later.
I think we should wait until later.
All right. Okay, let's do that. Quick plug, next webinar, October, is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I know the month that you've all been waiting for. We can talk about cybersecurity. So we're going to talk about cybersecurity. So it's a good opportunity, on a serious note, to get your team, get your staff thinking about cybersecurity awareness, because they can make you either more secure or less secure. We are going to be doing a webinar called Cybersecurity, What You Don't Know Can Hurt You. Go figure. And we're going to be talking about the different things, basically the five biggest things that you can do to guard your organization against risk, and telling stories about where small businesses, nonprofits, mid-sized businesses have suffered cybersecurity incidents, and the simple, straightforward ways of dealing with it. Here's a little hint: being proactive as opposed to reactive with your IT, right? Something that we talk about in all our webinars. It's way more expensive to be reactive about your IT than it is to be proactive. All right, so let's get into her here. Here's what we got: some stats, a little bit of context. Here's what's happening in the world. Folks are planning to allocate about 5.8% of their revenues, according to this digital investment report by EY in 2022. Executives are planning to allocate 5.8% of their revenues to digital transformation. Here's why that is of interest and relevance to this. That's a 65% increase from a couple years before. So people are spending much, much more money on digital transformation. It probably has something to do with AI. It probably has something to do with where technology is going, the change of how people are working. But everybody's kind of spending more money on technology, digital transformation. So we have to fund it, right? So we can either fund it out of cash flow or existing operations or grants and stuff like that, or we go to the government, or donations, I guess, if you're a nonprofit, or we go to the government. The financial impact of it's interesting, the financial impact of digital investment. The bottom line, the return on investment from folks that are leading in terms of their investment in digital, 8.1%, increasing to 10.8% in 2021. And the contribution to revenue growth, the impact on revenue growth of a digital investment, they're aligned, right? The more you invest in technology, the more it fuels the growth of organizations. There's all sorts of data out there that shows that. Obviously, it increases efficiency, it increases growth, and it increases staff morale, and like all that sort of thing. We got tons of smart people on here that I probably don't need to talk about that too much. We got two more stats. 81% of folks that are enterprise technology decision makers are expecting increased investments in the next year, with nearly half projecting the budget growth for AI exceeding 5%. That's according to Forrester's. And if those of you, the 19% or so that answered, they're looking at ERP changes. Here's the deal. According to there's a website called ERP Focus. They pulled a report. The average budget per user for an ERP migration is $9,000. So you're talking about, for a small business, mid-sized business, ERP migrations ranging in cost from $150,000 to $750,000. That's real money there, right? Jermaine, what's the because a bunch of people mentioned Office 365 migrations or Microsoft 365 type of migrations. What's the average cost of a Microsoft 365 migration?
Depending on the size of the business, anywhere around, say, 35 users to 100. The bridging the gap and the size of their data is somewhere about $21K to about 50. So that's kind of the range. It scales better the larger your organization is because of kind of getting into that space. But if you look at that as one of them, that kind of a lift and shift, you're looking at circa around 21K minimum to about 50K max, depending on your data and what you have today.
Yeah, and then once we start talking about folks that want to make that additional shift and become AI ready and start configuring their data and looking at some more advanced stuff and to start automating things, you're getting upwards from there, right? So $20,000 to $50,000 for that kind of that modernization. ERP is CRM migrations probably is not, in our experience, it's not as expensive as an ERP one. But in a lot of cases, you're kind of upwards of 100 grand. Could be 50 for kind of, could be 25, 50 for a basic one, getting up to 100 grand, depending on the size. And once you talk about training and stuff like that. So we're talking about significant dollars here, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to find some ways, if we can, to fund this and it not for those of us that are business owners, maybe not coming right out of our pockets. It's more fun if that doesn't happen, right? But we all want to invest in technology. So Jermaine, do you want to talk a little bit about the barriers? Why people aren't investing in technology? Why don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a couple of the things we hear from our clients, from prospects that we engage with, other MSPs that we work with, that kind of digital modernization portion. First thing, there's so many things in the market. If you're in a specific industry like insurance, there's 4 top companies. If you're in something like construction or you're in manufacturing of metal goods, there's 18. If you're in nonprofit, there's 152. So when you think about that, just having the knowledge about what is out there and what you should and can be using that fits your organization really does deter a lot of people from investing time in trying to figure out, well, should I bother doing this? I don't think so. There's just too many options and you end up with that choice paralysis. The other thing is, you think about the programs in themselves, they're complex. If you're a dental office, as an example, and you've got your booking schedule software, it's taking times from 150 different people that are working in the organization. Then it's also all your clients and the people that are coming in for services. That is massive. Like, the programs are complex to take and shift your entire organization to use something else. The training, the adoption, all of that, that's on that back end of getting it done. It's overwhelming. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to do it. You take the utilization and adoption failure as, well, what if I start this and it doesn't happen and I don't get to the next step, or everybody rejects it and then nobody's using it and we're half in the old bucket, half in the new bucket, and everything's a mess. Nobody wants to go through that and have that issue of failure coming up. Then you take a look at the specializations and customizations of applications that people had already. Right? Your application is so old, the entire company and all the people who knew how to fix it are gone. And now there's no way to translate that into the new era. So what do? You have to build it up from scratch. You have to create something that can help you to work today into the future. Nobody wants to do that. Like, my custom application works. I'm gonna keep that until the end of time because that's the only way my company can work or should work. And then you have that as a massive barrier to stopping people from doing it. Cost of change. And we just threw some numbers out there. If you're in manufacturing, $500,000 to do the new ERP system. You got to buy it and install it. You got to buy it and then install it. Right? So there's the time to purchase and installation, both of those. You're in a smaller organization, even moving from physical host servers and things on premise to Microsoft 365 and moving your workloads into the cloud. You think about those two things, and again, cost to change, you're 21 to 50K here, your X monthly on operational expenses for hosting in Azure. All of a sudden, your cost to change and move from where you are for everything that works on-prem, locked in a room, doesn't break, can go until it's dead in 10 years. The cost of change is super important. And then really, who has the time? If you're going to do your day-to-day and your company's doing well and you have all your clients and people are putting input into your business, everybody's happy, who has the time to take a pause, chunk out hours out of the week and go implement and or train on this? Nobody.
Okay, so Jermaine, you've convinced me I shouldn't do any of this sort of stuff.
I don't think we should do it. I think I just convinced myself.
Yeah.
We should stop. No more innovation.
We should not We should not do it. Or wait, if we don't do it, what's going to happen?
Well, okay. So look, it's all doom and gloom. These two slides are the worst. I think we should have just deleted them altogether. They're pretty bad. They're kind of downers.
Yeah,
But if we don't,
Debbie the Downer has returned from Saturday Night Live.
right? There you go, SNL. But if you don't change, the other part of it that now happens as well, you're going to start losing your market share. Organizations, people, the new crowd of people that you're working with as the boomers retire, those people all want something new. They want modern. They want to be able to operate in an organization that shows that it can leverage technology. You want to have informed decision making. If you don't update and use AI and work in the digital space and in the cloud, you're going to be slow to react and you're going to miss opportunities. You're going to waste a lot of time on inefficiencies within the organization. I want to draw one back for our avid followers of our webinars. When we talked about and we showed the first Xerox printer, there was entire companies that were paying people to sit down all day and transcribe notes and create copies of things and then put them in a file. And then the printer, the first photocopier came out, and the people that got on board, they were able to leverage that right away and move forward. So if you don't do anything and you don't modernize, you're going to lose the work. You're going to waste resources. You're going to make uninformed decision making for your business. And overall, you're not going to attract any talent because nobody's going to want to work with you if you're transcribing documents and not using the photocopier.
So here's I think the point that we're making. There's all sorts of reasons why not to do it, but the risks of not doing it are actually greater and costly. Like the cost of turnover, the cost of losing market share, the cost of lower profits way outweighs the time, the cost, the investment, like all the things that, yeah, you know what, it's not the best to have to implement a new piece of software. We're about to go through it in a couple different areas in our business, and we tend to go through it all the time because we're an IT company. And like, is it fun to be spending non-billable hours implementing new platforms and software and training people? Like, it's exciting at first, and then it becomes less exciting. But if you don't do it,
it's a slow burn.
Yeah, like the cost of not doing it, and the cost of inaction, not good. Okay, so all right, let's assume we have people convinced. If you're not convinced that you should invest in IT and in technology and leverage it and start looking at AI and stuff like that, pop something in the Q&A and let us know that we haven't convinced you. Let's spend the rest of our time talking about the different funding options. Like, what can you do? You know what? We have 4 funding options. So it's not just one. There's 4 different options. So we're going to talk about grants, interest-free loans, wage subsidies, and training reimbursements. So 4 options to help you essentially subsidize. And the context of this, I think that's important, is why is our Ontario government, Canadian government, why are they giving out these grants? Well, there's been a acknowledgement that there are some serious risks to our Canadian economy based on competitiveness. And if there isn't strong digital adoption in our economy, we're going to be less efficient as businesses overall in the economy. Our nonprofit friends are going to be providing fewer services, less efficiently. So there's this sort of overwhelming or overarching kind of recognition from a government perspective. We need to help businesses modernize, and we're willing to take your tax dollars and feed them back into certain businesses to help them modernize better. So why don't you kick us off and talk about grants, Jermaine?
For sure. There's hundreds of grants that are out there right now, different organizations. We're touching on just a couple of them. And we specifically chose these because they all align with some form of digital adoption, modernization, and exist in both realms of for-profit organizations and for nonprofit organizations. So there's funding for everyone. Grants that exist, there are a couple of well-known organizations like the Trillium Foundation that does tons of grants there. Specifically, you can get grants around 150K towards technology upgrades within your environment.
Yeah, that's the Resilient Communities Fund.
That's right. The Resilient Communities Fund, which again, for nonprofits, and that's only part of the fund. Then you look at, you've got internships for the organizations that do internships in that system. Techify ourselves, we do a Women in Tech internship. We do within that internship, now you can get grants between 5,000 to 7,000 per trainee for a kind of 12 to 16 week kind of internship or co-op, right? So there's grants, and that's per person. So you can have up to two trainees come in, and then you get the grant money around that. Hiring new graduates straight out of university. You want to invest in their training, development, and getting them up to speed. You can get up to about anywhere between 50 to 75% of their initial salary through the government covered as one of those subsidies. Training grants for your current organization. Then you've got the Canadian Digital Adoption Program that goes anywhere between 2,400 to about 15K for you to look at your organization and do any and everything. You want to launch a new marketing platform and a strategy and build that out. You can pay the consultant and pay half of that up to 15K that the government will cover. So there's lots of grants that sit out there. More importantly, though, what we want to talk a little bit more about is one that's kind of much larger and will give you an opportunity within your organization to go through and apply for something that'll create phenomenal change. Right? I'll pause there in case you want to add anything, Brendan.
So here's what I want to add. This is a program that we are currently using, and we're going through the application processes ourselves. And part of the sort of what gave us the idea to do this webinar is we know, like ourselves, everybody's looking for ways to do more with technology, but we're all struggling. Higher interest rates, higher cost of living. Everybody wants to get paid more, higher business costs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So how do we, in this economy, how do we invest more in technology? And this is a grant that Jermaine's going to talk about here. That is our favorite one because it's a sizable amount of money. And it's something that can have big impact.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit about the OCI is the Ontario Centre of Innovation. They fund 2 tracks or programs related to digital modernization. Part 1 is getting that digital modernization and adoption plan. And what this portion of the grant provides to you as the company owner and or the company that's looking to make that change is you can get up to 15,000 covered by the OCI, which would be about 50% of the overall cost. So as an example, it's a 1-to-1 match. Your organization would put $1, they put $1, you have 2, and then you can pay the consultant to work with your organization and develop that DMAP plan and get that DMAP going. Once that is done, that DMAP allows you to then get into part 2 of the program, which will cover anywhere between $1,000 to 150,000, of which again it's a 1-to-1 match. So as an example, your ERP in your organization will cost you $270,000 to do. You can get half of that covered by the government in order to support that transition. And then your company can contribute the remainder in kind, etc., towards paying.
Yeah, staff costs, like you're going to implement an ERP in the CFO's time, the staff time, the training time, the et cetera, et cetera. Like you're paying for all that. So that's part of your contribution. So up to $165,000. Jermaine, there was just a question that popped in. Is this for for-profits only, or is this one?
This one's open to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for-profit or nonprofit, whichever way you like your profits, this one is open to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons we wanted to focus in on this one specifically is because it does offer you quite a bit, right? And you can get that and see your way forward. So you're only using about half.
Yeah, and the other bit with that's consistent with that, it's a considerable amount of money, up to $165,000. And the reason we want to go after bigger grants at any of our organizations, because the time that it takes to go through sort of the hurdles and the funding and stuff like that, it's a significant amount of time and significant amount of time and effort. So you don't want to do this for $10,000. You want to do this for a bigger chunk.
Yeah, you want to pick that grand thing that's going to have the most impact on your organization, require the most investment, and then work with that. I updated the timelines after going through and running this process ourselves internally and working with the OCI and the government to start our own program. So in the first month, it's really about working through and understanding what your organization is going to do. Month 2, you're going to get that needs and goal definition. You're going to go ahead and pick a DMAP consultant and work with them in order to produce what is required for that application. Month 3 and 4, you're going to complete the application, get it all verified, validated, etc. over that couple of months, and then submit it for validation. And at that point, you've got to still wait somewhere between, 5 to 8 months at that point, because what will happen is it'll go through an internal review, then it'll pass from person to person and go through this other 8-stage process internally at the OCI and the government, of which if they come back to you and they need additional information, etc., it'll extend the timeline. But realistically, this is going to be an 8th-month endeavor before you have cash in hand to do the thing that you'd like to go and do. And at that point, you want to plan this out ahead of time. Right? You want to know today what you're going to do in your next year or your next fiscal year or 8 months down the line, so that you can get this process started.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. If you're interested in this, get on it now. Same person that asked the question said that they just checked the DMAP grant and that said it was for profit, privately owned only. So
when we work through the OCI, there's different program tracks. The money is available to both nonprofit and profit, but we can work with you to figure out where you need to be and direct you to the one that's appropriately named for a nonprofit.
Yeah, it's showing up as anonymous attendee. So let us know who you are. You can fill out, there's a little thing at the end, and we can help you through this. Like there is an amount of complexity with these, and it's important to have some help from folks that have done it before. So just something to consider with it. Okay, so I want to make sure we keep moving along here. So number 1, our favorite one, because it's grants and it's money that you don't have to pay. Number 2 is keeping it
interest-free loans.
Number 2 is interest-free loans. And so you can, there's a federal program that's administered by the BDC, Business Development Canada, Business Development Bank of Canada. And what you can do is you can get an interest-free loan up to $100K for these same type of initiatives. And usually the way these interest-free loans work is 5-year terms. So if you think about the benefit of getting a good chunk of money now, especially with where interest rates are now, we're into the like our credit lines are in the 7 to 8% range, I think, for a lot of folks. The cost of $100,000 over 5 years that's $35,000 in interest costs, right? And getting that up front and be able to deploy that money, and even mixing it with the other one, you can apply for multiple programs, right? And you can get funding from multiple places. So you do need to have a DMAP or digital modernization adoption program. That's what it stands for, right, Jermaine?
Plan, yeah.
Man, so many.
You're close, so close. We do need that DMAP plan for in order to be able to be eligible to do this as well, because everything starts with having that clear plan and draft of what you're going to do, and then the remaining of the funding, whether it comes from Trillium or it comes from OCI, for profit, nonprofit, will be then approved to implement.
Yeah, you do need to understand all the 100 different acronyms that will happen in this process. So yeah, there's some learning and understanding. Okay, number 3, Jermaine, why don't you take us over to wage subsidies?
So for wage subsidies, number 3, If you're doing one of the prime examples that we have of that is being able to cover up to about 80% of internal cost for payroll and or 50% for subcontractor costs. A lot of this is around industrial. This particular program is the Industrial Research Assistance Program. And they give you the whole criteria around what would validate and be counted under that. So if you're in manufacturing, working in industry, and you're working through to develop A, B, or C application, service, model, physical prototype, there's things that are included in there that you can get anywhere up to about 80% of that internal payroll cost for the person that you're employing to do that work. And it's designed to make sure that you get assistant funding for hiring young Canadians, postgraduates. It provides up to about $30,000 per graduate, up to 2 graduates over a kind of a 6 to 12 month period, if they're looking at that for that initial phase. So if you're going to get a developer out of university, as an example, to work with that kind of program within your organization, then you'd be able to have up to about 80% of that covered for those internal payroll costs. So being able to subsidize those wages and get the talent that you need in-house to do what you need is super important, and kind of work under that particular program.
So you see the potential here. You're kind of stacking $165,000 on top of $100,000, potentially $150,000 or $30,000 or stuff like that. You're stacking those different amounts together, and you're starting to get into some significant funding that's going to have an impact on what you're trying to do. Here's a program we've now used for, I think, 4 years, Jermaine.
Yeah, 4 years running. Yeah.
4 years, and we got up to this year close to $100,000 grant. So it's the Canadian Ontario Job Grant. It will fund between 50 and 83% of training. If you're less than, Jermaine, is it 100 employees or 50 employees?
You're less than 100 employees.
Okay, so if you're less than 100 employees, it will fund 83% of a training program. If you're more than 100 employees, it'll fund 50% of training program, and it's up to $10,000 per training funding. When you look at digital modernization, AI, there's a boatload. I was doing a talk about AI this morning, and everybody was talking about how do we train our team on prompts and interacting with AI and this Copilot thing that's coming on and that Microsoft's coming out with, and et cetera, et cetera. This is an opportunity. You can get training funding for implementing and adopting new technology. Like the folks that we're gonna adopt a CRM system, that are gonna adopt an ERP system, or even go into Microsoft 365. Got to teach people how to use SharePoint, how to use Teams, and how to use all these tools, Microsoft Forms, and that sort of stuff. So we've used this over the past 4 years for a combination of different leadership, customer service, sales, and new technology training. So great program. Once you start using it, we now use it on an annual basis, and we know how it works and what we need to provide and that sort of stuff. We got a great trainer, external folks. So again, hey, let's stack another $100,000 on top. So we're getting into, if you combine the different stuff we've talked about today, we're getting kind of close to, or could be even north of $500,000, right? I'm no mathematician, but we're like, you talk about between $250,000 and $500,000 in terms of funding, then that starts to match some of those big dollar figures that we talked about early in our webinar. All right. So thank you, Brendan and Jermaine. You've provided us a whole bunch of information. I have some questions. You can do two things. I'm pretending that I'm a webinar attendee. So number one, you can throw a question in the Q&A pane. Ask us questions now. We'll stay on for kind of the next few minutes and answer whatever questions until we get through them. Or there's two other things that you can do. We're a sea of options today. So number one, you can request a grant discovery session with us. So what we can do is we can talk to you about your goals. What are you trying to achieve? And we can help you match up with somebody that will do an eligibility check and to see what grants would make most sense for you. and to help put together your plan. Where if you start with us and we start with a conversation with you about where you want to go, then we can talk about the technologies, what you're trying to do, the way that needs to be sort of positioned and thought about from a grant request perspective. We can tell you about our experience in going through this with us and with different clients, and then help you guide through the process, and get you going on that, the 5 to 8 month journey, for you to get a boatload of money. Okay, so that's one. Number two, if you're in that sort of, hey, where I want to go is on the AI side of things, or the modernized side of things, or I don't even know. Do we need to be modernized? Are we okay with the technology we have right now? We have an AI readiness assessment. It's sort of 22-ish questions that if you answer those questions, we can get a really good sense of your technology. And they're not really hard questions. They're like, hey, what CRM do you use? Do you have servers on premise? What Microsoft 365 licenses do you have? Yeah. What color is your car? Well, no, not that one. But different stuff like that. And then we look at that information and we can have a discussion with you and say, hey, here's where you are on sort of a modernization scale. Here's what your next steps would be, and give you kind of an overall roadmap, an idea, an outline of budget. Like, this is to get you from A to B is $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, that sort of stuff. We do that kind of thing on a regular basis. We've gone through so many of these modernizations that we can really give folks a good sense of budget. So pick either of those if you're interested in learning more. If you're a client of ours, of course, we love you. You can always reach out to your consultant, or you can go the old-fashioned way and just email us. Those are our contacts. We appreciate you joining. We have some questions in the Q&A panel, which we will get to maybe right now.
Yeah, and as we get to them, a couple of things that I wanted to add to is typically all of the grant systems require a specific roadmap, what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you think you're going to do it, and what you want to cover in the topics that are specific to your business, etc. So if you're doing a training grant, or if you're doing the DMAP program and you're looking at whatever systems you want to get, you've got to have a clear idea internally of what you need and how it's going to improve and change your business. And that'll put you very far ahead of everyone coming in fresh to the grant application process, right? So it's good to note that, and it's more or less standardized, regardless of which organization is providing the funding, because they all go through similar process of review and approval on the back end.
Awesome. All right. So we have some questions. Jen, thanks for somehow in Zoom, you went from anonymous to now I know who you are. So I appreciate that. The Joyce, you had a couple questions. If you just clarify what you're looking for in terms of how much for training, what kind of training are you kind of thinking of? And then we'll answer a couple other questions and then we'll come down to your question. So Jermaine, we'll start with a easy one for you. What was the name of the wage subsidy program?
The organization that does the wage subsidy program, Industrial Research Assistance Program, through the IEA. That is one of them. In terms of wage subsidy programs that exist, depending on whether or not you are a nonprofit, for-profit, there's probably about 10 or 15 of them that may apply to your organization, depending on what industry you're in as well. So if you are looking at the wage subsidy program and you know for which types of positions you're looking to hire for in that program, or if it's recent graduates, once you've defined that, we can work with you to put you in contact with someone that can identify which one of the programs for wage subsidy will apply to you. But they're all within the same kind of range of how much they provide in wage subsidy.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Like one of the questions could be that somebody would ask would be, hey, you've mentioned all these different programs. how do we sort through it, make sure that we don't spend our entire lives going through government websites and that sort of stuff. And your point's a really good one. There are organizations out there that facilitate getting the grants, right? That will kind of take all this information and say, okay, here's the grant that you should do. We'll write the application for you. We'll help you get funding. And these organizations know which pockets, like the other bit about government funding, it depends on the time of year. It depends on how much they've used of their budget. It depends where geographically that you are. And there's experts that kind of do this on a day-to-day basis that know where the money is. Yeah. Right. So one of the reasons that we bring up the DMAP program and the OCI is we know there's a boatload of money there. Yeah. And they've got it, but they're fully funded and they don't have enough people asking them for money.
And there are a lot of those grants that don't have a timeline. The timeline is we are open until funding has expired or been completely allocated. So there's also that. Like some of them are strict timeline. If you're looking at incentive funds for co-ops and internships, there's specific timelines that you must apply by mid-August at the latest, etc. After which they won't give out any additional incentives or bursaries.
Yeah, and just to give you a sense, if you want to work with outside organizations, so start with us. We'll work through with you some options and some thinking, and then if it makes sense to bring in an outside organization, generally they will be between $1,000 and kind of $5,000 to get these grants type of thing. And some of the more ambitious ones, if you're going after $300,000 grants, they may do it on a more kind of contingency basis, like a percentage basis. Yeah. But usually, like we've done it to pay somebody $1,000 or to pay $5,000 to get $100,000 in a grant is it's totally worth it.
And based on a few of the questions, I think we need to be clear to our assessment. We're not charging anyone for that. And we do not do the grants for you. We will put you in contact with the right organizations or give you a couple of options of organizations that will work with you to apply for the grants, and they will tell you exactly which ones you're eligible for and how you can apply for those, and they will work with you and do the application on your behalf, and you'd give oversight to it and complete it at the end. So just keep that in mind. We are not the ones doing it, and our service to the community here is really to get you some ideas, because we found it very interesting when we were trying to figure it out ourselves, and we want to be able to share that. So there you go.
Interesting translates into, oh my goodness, there's so much information. This is so hard to figure out.
Well, I saw a video on one of the websites during the additional research we were doing. And the video is like, hey, here's what government funding looks like. And it was just basically an arrow going around a maze everywhere, never getting to the actual funding in the middle. And they're like, if you feel like this, contact us. And I'm like, yes, I feel exactly like that, because I don't know where I should apply, when I should apply, and how I should apply. So it does make it easier and more directed working with some form of a consultant or organization that specializes in the grants.
Awesome. Okay, Joyce, I think we should follow up with you after. So let's get on. As Jermaine mentioned, going through and for us to help kind of point folks in the right direction, and for the discovery stuff, it doesn't cost anything. We're happy to do it and help you out. Let's see. Oh, hey, this is a good one. Which grant fund would be ideal for an organization that is looking to move from Google Workspace to Microsoft Office 365, Microsoft 365. Yay!
Digital modernization, that digital modernization DMAP funding grant would be the most direct. There's also a couple of other funding grants through the Trillium Foundation. If you're as a nonprofit, Trillium Foundation is where you can get up to $150K of your total spend in the grant. in your project in order to do that digital transformation. If you're for profit and you're going through the OCI will give you up to 150,000 with you matching 1-to-1, so up to 300K project you can execute with them. So depending on which side of the fence you're on, the relative amount of money is similar in how much you can get from the government. And the grant that would suit you. So the question has come through, but I don't know organization. But if you're a nonprofit, we can work on the Trillium Foundation grant. There's also the Canadian Digital Adoption Plan program that they have for CDAP that will help you to develop that plan, of which you then apply to a second grant to get additional funding to implement the plan. So there's DMAP and there's CDAP, and those two are, look, I didn't come up with the acronym.
Yeah, there's like all sorts of acronyms.
Right. But yeah, so for that one, yeah, you can go ahead and get one of those grants. But the most important there is that you can get it. And it exists out there right now.
Yeah, let me just toss this up again. Please take the QR code, fill out the grant discovery session request. If you do that, we're going to be able to guide you through specific, right? There's only so specific that we can get based on whether you're nonprofit or not. And like, we need to have a discussion with you, understand what kind of stuff you're looking to do, and then we can point you in the right direction for the grants.
And there are different organizations that specialize in nonprofits versus for-profit grants. So we can also point you in the direction of those people that support.
Absolutely. Okay. 2 other questions, and then we will we'll beat it. We'll get out of here. One, Zandy asked about sharing the presentation. We have all of our webinars are recorded. They're posted online. You will be able to access. So if there's anything in the presentation that you want to come back and look at and that sort of stuff, it will be online as soon as our fantastic marketing person Arem uploads it, and based on the upload and download speeds of the internets. And then what is your success rate of getting the grants? Jermaine,
so far,
what would you say?
100%. We haven't been declined a grant yet. The training grants we've gotten all 4 years in a row. The internship program grants we've gotten for the last 3 interns, or all 3 interns we've had in the last kind of 3 years, etc. I think we've had a less success rate of finding interns than we do of getting the grant approved. So that's kind of funny. And then, yeah, so we're 100% right now on getting the grants. So we haven't been declined any so far for any reason.
Yeah. And part of that is because we figured out the good partners to work with.
That's great.
Lots of smart people out there, lots of expertise, lots of help. All right. It is 1:47. We wanted to make sure that everybody gets a little bit of time before their next series of virtual meetings that they're going to go through for the rest of the day. Thank you once again for joining our webinar. Please contact us if you're interested in some more on this topic. It's a fun topic. It's an interesting topic. It's a way that we can all advance more from a technology digital perspective and use some of that tax money that we've all sent to the government, get some of it back to pay for technology. So Jermaine, thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me, Brendan, and take care everyone out there.
Have a great day.